People always talk about how important cardio is in MMA, and they're not wrong, are they? If you get tired before the other guy, then you're probably going to lose the fight.
If you don't stand up, you're disqualified.
I mean, you can't do much when you're fatigued, except try to survive, or hope you've already done enough to win, or you'll be left crawling your way to your Lamborghini.
What is this MMA?
Fans already know the guys with insane cardio, but what about the fighters who have a notoriously bad gas tank, eh? Don't they deserve a shout out? Fellas, have you ever wished you were a little bit taller? Well, Konzuri shoes have got you covered. Their shoes can elevate you 2.8 inches without anyone knowing. Height can be a touchy subject, and sometimes a good old-fashioned confidence boost is what's needed. Sound interested? Well, for a limited time only, our viewers get 15% off if you use the code MMAOP at konzuri.com. The site's already 30% off, so if you do use our code, you get an extra 15. That's 45% off your entire order. Support our show and check them out at konzuri.com and use the code MMAOP. Not only do Konzuri shoes make you 2.8 inches taller, but they're incredibly well made, stylish, and comfortable. They're not old man Velcros. They have styles for every occasion as well. The height insole is actually built into the shoe, so no one can tell you're getting a secret height boost. Life's short, but you don't have to be. So on top of the 30% off at the site, you get an extra 15% with our code at konzuri.com. That's code MMAOP for 45% off your order. MMAOP at konzuri.com. konzuri.com. I'm Balian from MMA On Point. Feast your eyes on our channel Hall of Famers who helped make this video possible. And these are the 10 most abysmal gas tanks in MMA. And okay guys, we're not talking about the people you would barely call MMA fighters, like the massive dudes that fought in Pride a few times. We're talking about actual mixed martial artists. And a separate disclaimer, a classic example is someone like Shane Carwin when he gassed himself out trying to finish Brock Lesnar. But that was just one fight. And anyone who throws full pelt for 4 minutes is going to get tired. Number 10, Travis Luther. Right, old school one here. We're going back to the old hook and shoot days where Travis Luther was the light heavyweight champion after just 2 fights. The man ditched a career in criminal justice to learn BJJ, and I mean, it was paying off because he just started subbing everyone. And look, it didn't take much to get into the UFC back then, but that didn't mean the competition wasn't still high.
I'm punching him in the face. I'm punching him in the face.
And after he KO'd Marvin Eastman, he got completely outworked by everyone else because he just didn't have the cardio or the training program to keep up with him. But he kept getting first round finishes outside of the UFC, so he got a chance to come back on The Ultimate Fighter and won the whole season, which meant he got to challenge the champion. But then he completely blew his title shot against Anderson Silva, where, yeah, he missed weight, but completely gassed, and then he got even more tired and ended up getting triangled by the Spider. And then he got even more tired in his next fight against Rich Franklin and basically just collapsed. He could stop guys on the regional level, but against UFC competition, when he couldn't finish them, he was just knackered, basically. Number 9, Conor McGregor. Okay, so when you look through the entire list of UFC champions, only one in the entire modern era stands out to me as having a bad gas tank. And that person is CM Punk Conor McGregor. Considering you have to fight 5 rounds as part of being a champion, you know, it's a pretty important part of your skill set, and often it's the ability to manage the gas tank that has gotten a lot of people to championship level in the first place. Now, yes, McMahon went 5 rounds with Nate Diaz, but do you remember what he looked like halfway through that fight? He did manage to catch a second win, but despite everything he's achieved, the fact that he's won 2 world titles and he's done it by being an absolute finishing machine is as equally impressive as it is surprising. In the first 8 minutes of a fight, the Notorious is absolutely lethal, but past that point, he seems to lose so much of what makes him a killer.
This guy got 8 minutes of fighting him, that's it. He quits after 8 minutes, every fight. He's not a championship fighter, he's never been, and he's never, ever fought anyone in UFC like me, ever.
It's pretty ironic, actually, that Conor would finish Eddie at 7 minutes 59 seconds, but he's kind of right. Submissions aside, he gassed against Mayweather, and a lot of his other losses have come around that point in the fight, where it seemed he popped his nos too early.
Now they, oh, you're a wrestler now.
Number 8, Melvin Manhoef. There's a bunch of different ways to approach a fight in MMA, but everyone loves the idea of an insane KO artist with the nickname No Mercy who has no breaks and is constantly looking for the finish.
Oh, I have 1 speed, I have 1 gear. Go.
How do you survive that?
Because I'm me.
because that's the way Melvin Manhoef has always fought, pretty much. Try to annihilate the other person as soon as the fight starts, and he's had 36 of them finish in the first round. That's a ridiculous number.
There's the fireworks, the gun. He's out as well.
But when you fight like that, there's pretty much only one outcome. You're gonna get tired, and that's what's happened to Melvin on multiple occasions.
Oh, ripped to the body, hooks to the head. Left hook. Paolo Filio taking more punishment than a bondage parlor. There it is. It's over. It's over. Paolo Filio returns.
I mean, the best way to beat Melvin was to just let him tire himself out and expend a bunch of energy, and then just beat him up or take him down after that.
From Mizuno. Melvin in trouble. Mizuno's caught him. Mizuno's caught him.
Stuffed head kick again.
Oh, he's chasing him.
Yuji may have stopped this because it's not about whether or not you say you're okay. It's intelligently defending yourself.
Number 7, Mariusz Pudzianowski. I feel like for most people, when they think who would be the best at MMA, they pretty much look at guys like Mariusz, someone who's been the world's strongest man a bunch of times, and it's like, oh yeah, it's obvious, the dude who could lift an entire car.
Pretty intelligent spectators, I'd say.
But as we know, there's a lot more to MMA than being strong as fuck.
I'm strong as fuck.
Although I do actually have to give a round of applause to Puts, not just because we have the same birthday, but because he's achieved a lot, considering being a strong man was his actual career before MMA. But very quickly, we found out that cardio was for sure for him going to be an issue. He fought Tim Sylvia in his third fight, and the Maniac absolutely slaughtered him.
Ostatni raz.
Sędzia ostrzega Mariusza za...
Sylwia w tej chwili absolutnie dominuje. Jeszcze jeden low kick. Widział walkę z Kałaguciem.
Sylvia, show me first time what is this MMA.
But that wasn't always a problem though.
I missed the part where that's my problem.
Because he knocked out a bunch of guys in the first round. But when he got tired, especially if he was already on his back, he had just no way of defending himself.
But Pudzianowski in trouble. Pudzianowski not offering intelligent defense, and that is it.
He has actually managed to win some decisions, but he's usually so tired by the final rounds, and he's so hard to knock out that he's been able to just grab onto guys and hold them until the final bell goes. Either way, he makes it entertaining and is still one of the biggest stars in the KSW promotion. Number 6, Phil Baroni. To be fair, back in the early years of MMA, you didn't always need a strategy. For some dudes, a strategy was get in there, knock the other guy out before he did the same thing to you. That's basically all Phil Baroni ever tried to do. He was one giant walking muscle who, given any opportunity in a fight, would try and throw as many punches at you as possible as quickly as possible. Now, his whole career was pretty much hit and miss. He had some great knockouts, but he also had several fights where he just went way overboard with his output and just couldn't keep up the pace for the whole fight.
Paula exerting a lot of energy here early. A stomp to the head.
Kind of pulling him around like a kid in a schoolyard right here.
2 minutes of both these fights. Exhausted.
A few moments later.
As you said, mocking Phil Baroni.
Terry Lurr on the field open. Frank Samurai.
And this could be it. Cole's trying to finish the deal. Coming down hard. And that's it. He's done it.
I think it was also partly because he never really adapted to modern MMA as the sport moved on, and I don't think the idea of prioritizing cardio ever came across his mind until he was well into his career. Might also have been all the steroids he was doing and all that muscle, who knows.
It's a good fight, you know. I want to show this though, so no one thinks I'm bullshitting. Oh, this is torn.
Okay, this is the weirdest interview I've ever done.
And on a slightly darker note, if you're a fan of Phil Baroni, it's probably best to not go and say hi to him. Number 5, Mark Coleman. To be honest, he was kind of a unique character in MMA in that he had so many achievements, but also so many flaws as a fighter. And let's face it, one of his biggest ones was certainly cardio. I guess fights didn't even have time limits or rounds back when he started fighting, and because he was just breaking people with his size and strength, the idea of actually having to pace himself probably never really came across his mind. I mean, who thinks about pacing yourself in a street fight? And that's basically what MMA was back in the day. If there's a reason why he lost after those first 6 wins, it was definitely his gas tank. I mean, when he couldn't take Maurice Smith down, he was more tired than a guilt-ridden Christian Bale. And then after 4 straight losses, well, yeah, he had to change something. I mean, who'd have thought he'd end up winning a 15-minute decision? Okay, it was pretty boring though, actually. Still, before he made all those changes, there's only really one word for his gas tank. Yeah, abysmal.
Hey, that's the name of the show.
Number 4, Bob Sapp. Nah, mate, I don't think making a 330-pound man run around a ring for 10 minutes will make him tired. I think he can handle it. Look, I don't know whose idea it was to get Bob Sapp into fighting. Actually, I do know. It was
Little Michael.
It was K1 president Kazuyoshi Ishii. And yeah, he was right. It was pretty entertaining. Now, I know I said no freak show entries, but Bob had an entire career of MMA and kickboxing, not just a couple of fights for laughs, a career of over 64 pro bouts, and actually, he got some wins over some pretty credentialed guys. But sometimes, when he fell down, he just couldn't get up again. And sure, some of his wins felt like he was just getting lucky, but for 9 years straight, not a single one of his MMA fights made it out of the first round, either because he was flatlining people or getting put away himself, usually because he wasn't very good or just, yeah, completely knackered. Actually, if you look at his entire MMA career, out of his 32 fights, only 4 of them went past the first round. Granted, many of them he actually admitted that he did throw.
I roughly tell them, look, I'm going to go out there, I'm going to go hard for 2 or 3 minutes, maybe a minute, and then, you know, when I go down to whatever, come in there and stop it. $40,000. Yes, I fucking took it.
And the last one is probably the most hilarious fight of all time. The only thing those two had enough energy for was a staring contest. Number 3, Nick Serra. How many of you knew Matt Serra had a brother?
Of course, my brother, Matt the Terror Serra.
You're some diehard fans right there. He actually started off his career pretty damn well. He also trained under Renzo Gracie, and he got 4 first-round finishes in his first 4 fights. 1 year after brother Matty made his UFC debut, Nicky arrived and he had hoped to showcase more of the family jiu-jitsu, but after constant failed takedowns, he got completely gassed.
Nick Serra is very tired here and he's telegraphing those shoots.
So he went back to regional shows and kept doing more of his mad monkey shit.
Take this man down,
But because of all the finishes he was getting early, he never really addressed his cardio issues, and soon enough he ran into more problems once again. His most high-profile fight was in Elite XC against Matt Mikowski, and exactly the same thing happened again.
Kick behind the knee again, and Serra just falling down.
The referee's already warned him.
If you don't stand up, you're disqualified.
You hear the referee.
Stand up, you're disqualified.
Serra cannot get to his feet. This is over.
How are you doing today, Nikki?
A little tired.
I mean, not many people will tire themselves out to the point where they literally can't even stand up.
He'll take it till there's nothing left in him, you know? He was pretty much running on just heart and alone, you know? You got the heart, but also the lungs give out for whatever reason. It could just be your night, not that your night with that, you know?
Sometimes you win it, sometimes you lose, but there's always gonna be a freak show when I fight.
Number 2, Kimbo Slice. As I said earlier, you don't really need to worry about a gas tank in a street fight, especially if you're a Kimbo Slice. He already had a massive skill advantage over most people anyway. You can't give him cardio as well. But when he did lose his YouTube Underground Fighter Championship, it was because he did gas the hell out against Sean Gannon. So maybe you do need cardio. But I'm sure if you had wrestling, clinching, and 5-minute rounds, that won't happen again, right? Yeah, no, that's completely wrong, unfortunately. Still, first 2 MMA fights, over in 60 seconds, easy, mate. But then in his next one, I mean, I have no idea how he stood up at the end of the second round against James Thompson.
We wanted to find out about Kimbo Slice's ground game. James Thompson is summing up a lesson here.
And that finish looked like it was in slow motion, but he still got it. That That probably should have been the first clear red flag that Kimbo just didn't have the gas to go more than 5 minutes. But oh no, the UFC wanted to see for themselves and they booked him against Houston Alexander, which should realistically have been over in the first 60 seconds. But it went all 15 minutes, with both guys basically about to fall over by the end of it. And I'm sure you'll all remember when Bellator made the ultimate grudge match, you know, Dada 5000 against Kimbo. But at the end of that one, both guys could barely walk, let alone throw any kind of meaningful punch. And Kimbo basically won because Dada just couldn't stand up anymore. I mean, that guy should have his own entry, but I mean, look, how many fights did he take? Number 1, Tank Abbott. Oh, to have been an MMA fan in 1995 and believed that Tank Abbott was one of the baddest men on the planet. This was a guy who arrived at the venue, hopped off his motorbike, went to the bar to pound 3 beers, and then stepped into the cage. That might not be true, but I'm pretty sure that's what happened. Cardio? Ain't that what sissies do before they go to their jobs in the morning?
Stay fucking hard!
The only cardio Tank needed was a quick jog around the gym before benching as much as possible. Tank never won a fight that went past 3 minutes. Okay, just one, but apparently he reinvented himself as a wrestler when the UFC went to Japan.
Oh, you're a wrestler now.
Against Taktarov, he was completely exhausted, okay, and he crucifixed on the mat for like 3 minutes. The Scott Forenzo fight was possibly the two most out of shape men to ever fight in UFC history, and against Maurice Smith and Pedro Hizzo, he couldn't even lift his hands anymore. You can basically chalk those losses down to exhaustion. And at that point, it was time to go and be a pro wrestler for a while, where you at least get to lie down for 5 minutes when you get tired. Well, this one turned out pretty good, and it's mainly thank you to that man, Luke Taylor, for editing it all together. Go and give him some love on his bloody Twitter. He deserves it, okay? And he's a funny guy. @cooltome_. Badoosh. This video would have been nothing without the MMA On Point theme tune, obviously at the start, so thank you Ben Rosette for that one. Check him out on Spotify. Thank you as always to those of you who've joined as channel champions. Appreciate you supporting the content and contributing your ideas. Hope you've been enjoying the exclusive stuff. You can join them, hit the button below. I actually enjoyed researching this one. It was kind of funny. Like, I'm not trying to be rude. Obviously, you know, MMA is pretty difficult, but, you know, some of it made me laugh. If it made you laugh, you know, leave a comment down below what you think was the best one. Go ahead and give me a like if you enjoyed the video. You know, we work hard on these, so I'm glad that you guys still enjoy watching them. And if you want to see more and you're new, hit subscribe and then you won't miss a video either, will you now? I've been Balian, and yeah, thanks guys. I'll see you in the next one.